Seal One is a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Use the code LEADHEAD for a 25% off discount.
All right, lead heads, welcome back to the Talking Lead podcast. I don't know what I was getting ready to say there. We appreciate all the years of dedication you lead heads tuning in each and every week to get your fill of leducation, because that's what we've been doing here, leducating the unleducated since 2012 on the Talking Lead podcast. And with that in mind, if you did not get an opportunity, make sure you go back to our previous episode where we had the gentleman from Disavowed Group. They do 3D printed suppressors in cans with a new flow-through technology. So we talked about that, broke down the science behind all that. Very interesting podcast. And oh, by the way, those guys happen to own a car parts company where they make restoration parts for old antique cars, muscle cars. So that was pretty cool to talk about that as well. This episode, we're kind of bringing it back into a more serious nature. It's one that we've kind of building on from an episode we did a couple of months ago where we talked about the COVID-19 shots in the military and the men and women that were erroneously discharged for not taking that, and the new administration stepping up and offering to re-enlist those servicemen and women, and with back pay, by the way. So during that, we had Sergeant Major Lance Nutt, who is joining us today. Lance, welcome back in.
Good to be back. Thanks, Marty. And I certainly appreciate you giving us an opportunity to share more about this topic today. And I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stories and having a chance to comment as well.
Yeah, and the topic is burn pits, and this was brought up during the COVID-19, the jab episode that we did. Lance brought this up, and I thought it was a great suggestion because I didn't know much about it either. I hadn't heard much about all the health issues that our servicemen and women are having due to these massive burn pits over in Iraq and Afghanistan. And to build on our guest list here with that, we have two individuals that have direct experience with those. We have Albert Toscano joining us. And Albert, where are you located?
I'm located in Peoria, Arizona, a suburb just northwest of Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, in Phoenix. Got it. And Lance is in Arkansas, for those who are new to the show. And then also join us, we have Steve Flemming. And Steve, where are you located?
I live just outside of Houston, Texas.
Okay, so we're all over the globe today. Very good. So we're going to get into the burn pits, and I'm going to get more into the background of these gentlemen and their qualifications for the topic on the burn pits. But Lance has had an emergency, and he's not going to be able to stay on with us the full time, but hopefully he'll be able to bounce off and on. The storm season, and here in Tennessee, we've been getting a lot of those too, so completely understandable. The facilities there, is it the sheepdog facilities that got hit?
It is. Out at our ranch, we had some damage, and again, this time of year, whether it's tornadoes, floods, etc., and we've had teams out in the field helping with some of the tornadoes that hit us a couple weeks ago, and now we're tasting a little bit of it ourselves. So I do apologize to the audience for having to jump off here in a few minutes, but I certainly appreciate a couple tidbits on my end just to kind of share what we're dealing with.
Absolutely. And I guess if you've got the time, because I want to get this in. I know this is a serious topic, but we like to keep things lighthearted as much as possible here. And I've got some jack wagons that I definitely need to take care of. And we'll run through it quick. And then if you guys have jack wagons or heroes to recognize, we're going to do that too. But let's go ahead and get the jack wagon train rolling here with the gunny. So, Gunny, bring that train in, and we're going to have a little fun today.
Hoorah, Semper Fi, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the talking lead jack wagon of the week, so brace yourself, baby.
All right, so the train is coming in, and it is coming in hot, as usual. And I'm going to kick this off with a jack wagon. And this has happened over the last, I guess, 24, 48 hours or something like that. But U.S. Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey grandstanded over the last, I guess, 24, 25, 26 hours. I don't know. He got up in front of in Congress and just did trying to break somebody's record. I don't know what it was. Grandstanding. I don't know if he was filibustering. I don't know what he was doing. But it seemed like a colossal waste of taxpayer time and money just for these people to try and disrupt the flow of government. And I just wanted to point that out in case anybody hasn't heard about this. I mean, obviously, don't give him the time of day, but complete idiocracy going on here in our government. Instead of working together, they're finding ways that they can just disrupt and make America's lives miserable. So that's my jack wagon, for instance. I was trying to not keep it political, but I watched that. Turned on the damn news yesterday, and I don't normally do that. And I saw that guy, and it just burned my craw that they're working so hard against. If they just put half that energy in working with and towards the current administration, how much we could accomplish and how much better America would be. It just breaks my heart to see that. So, how about you guys? You guys got any jack wagons? Anybody you want to call out?
Well, I will. I'll call out the Tesla protesters.
That was my next one. Good one.
Tesla is an American company, and it's funny that the same people protesting the company today were praising the EV community less than a year ago and driving home the point where they thought everyone should own and drive an electric vehicle. And now the one company that started, promoted, and has been most successful in that arena is now vilified by the very people that said that we all needed to drive electric vehicles. So, but, whether you drive an electric vehicle or not, is the fact that we're protesting an American company that provides jobs, good paying jobs for Americans. And I never in my wildest dreams would have thought of owning an electric vehicle, an EV. But for the first time, I am tempted to go buy one of the Cybertrucks just so I can make a point that no one should be allowed to tell anyone else what they should or should not drive, no matter what the politics of it is.
Yeah, that whole thing is shady to me, and it goes back to manipulating people and their emotions. And I'm not so sure that it's all the left that's behind that. I mean, I'm a big conspiracy guy, Lance. So, but yeah, I get it, and that burns me up too. Just these idiots is like they're pushing so much for a green Earth, and they were pushing for the electric cars because it's going to make our world so much better. And I mean, even then they were flawed in their reasoning and their thinking, because batteries, you got to make these batteries, and making batteries is tremendously harmful to our environment. So.
Absolutely. And you know what? It ties into some of what we're going to talk about today.
That's true.
The dangers of disposing of materials and the human cost to extract some of those materials, and the damage not only does it do to our ecosystem, but to the people involved in mining it and then having to dispose of it, right?
That's true. That is true. Gentlemen, Albert, Steve.
Well, mine is going on that same topic, is the people that are getting caught destroying or damaging these Tesla vehicles. Obviously, they all have cameras. Cameras are everywhere. And it seemed like these people just have no common sense. They're marking these vehicles for no apparent reason. There's just the hatred. These people that are driving these vehicles have probably nothing political to say, but they're getting harassed. Their vehicles are getting destroyed. And, and as far as that topic of, the Tesla vehicles getting burnt, obviously the lithium batteries in the vehicles, obviously that's another hazard that comes down to it. So
yeah,
so
and then the tires burning, the pollution with the tires burning, and all that. Yeah,
but it's just, the thing is though, and I'm glad that they're now considering these people domestic terrorists. They're really going after these people. So
yeah, and they're, for the most part, they're attacking their own. You're attacking your own, and these vehicles are already bought and paid for, so it's not hurting Tesla. But Tesla stocks have dropped. I guess that's because people selling or not, wanting to buy it because of whatever reason. But now's the time to buy. That stock's down low right now. You need to buy that crap like it was an Easter egg, man. You need to go start putting it in your basket, and because it's going to go back up. It's not going to stay down. It will go back up.
Well, too, it's like majority of these stocks are in people's retirement, the retirement stocks that these companies have, and now they're doing this, and they're hoping Tesla fails, and okay, so now you're going against your own people. So
yeah, and
common sense.
I'm glad you pointed that, because that was a point I did want to make. The Minnesota guy, what's his name, Tim? That ran for vice president. They've got their state retirement was invested in partial Tesla stuff. So he's one of the big proponents of hurting Tesla stock and Elon. I mean, it's all against Elon, but he's hurting his own constituents. They're idiots, like you said. They're complete idiots. There's no end to their idiocracy. How about you, Steve?
Mine's not as big of a net that I cast. So my oldest got her first car in the recent weeks.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's a whole new stress of itself. But
I see a new gray hair in your beard there.
Yeah. Over the past like 18 months or so, you're doing permitted driving, right? And teaching her to drive, and nighttime, hey, it's raining, let's go outside, and do this. And you get these little magnets, right? And I always kept them in the doors of the cars. And hey, if you're going to drive, we're going to throw the new driver, whatever, learning driver. Man, it amazed me how many aggressive or like deliberately rude or impatient individuals seem to they do not care that it says that, and somebody's learning. And I'll tell you, just like watching her over the last 18 months, like we had to like completely add a whole thing, not just talking about defensive driving, offensive driving, but how to deal with these people and have conversations around, if somebody gets out of their vehicle, no matter what, you stay in your vehicle. You don't open the door for any, like, you're having conversations about these crazy belligerent individuals and how they act. And that's something that came to mind when I was thinking about that, who to call out. And it's these types of individuals out there like that. Because now I got a kid on the road, and like my anxiety's at a new level.
Well, hopefully she's not driving a Tesla.
No.
That just makes her a whole nother target right there, you know.
But yeah, those people are, man, they really kind of get to me.
So, has she had any accidents yet?
No, nothing. No, she's a good driver.
Good. Is this your only child? Do you have other children?
I got another one coming. I got another teenager, so she'll be behind the wheel in a couple years, and
just have her hide and watch, learn. That's what I'm the youngest of two older brothers, and I watched all their mistakes, and I learned what not to do. So
my oldest is super cautious and very conservative in how she approaches risk. My youngest is the one I'm worried about. She's just like, how fast does this go? Can we
the
test
daredevil?
That? No, we're not going to test that. Like, she's like, maybe. I'm like, no, not maybe. So she's going to be she is going to finish. She'll gray me out.
She'll gray you out completely. That's hilarious. Yeah. Very good. It looks like Lance is on the road back to the farm there to take care of business. So, that's all the jack wagons I had for today. Again, I just kind of wanted to make this quick, but I do want to touch on and do the hero segment also. And not that I'm putting anyone on a pedestal here, but just for the mere entertainment. He's back. I'm going to bring him back here. Just for the mere entertainment and enjoyment that he brought to my life, and I'm sure millions of others. But let me share my screen here. Just found out today that Val Kilmer passed away. He's an actor. I know actors, and he was probably a big libtard. I mean, I don't know. I didn't keep up with his personal life or anything like that. But, Top Gun, probably one of my all-time favorite movies that he was in. And then also Tombstone, another one of my top, probably top 5 favorite movies of all time. He was in that too. So I just wanted to pay my homage to Val Kilmer and the greatness that he brought to the Hollywood screen. Top Gun, they put Batman on here. I don't even know why they put Batman. I mean, that was one of his least popular films of all time. Top Gun and Tombstone. And Heat. Did y'all ever watch Heat?
Heat's one of mine.
Yeah,
I remember from. I love that movie.
So, I mean, that's in my top 10 of all time favorite movies right there. So, this guy played a big part in my life throughout the years, just for entertainment purposes. So, Godspeed, Val Kilmer. What was he? He wasn't Slider. He was Iceman.
Iceman.
Godspeed, Iceman. That's my hero. How about you guys? Got any heroes? Anybody you want to shout out? Give a shout out for doing something great, or a thing. It could be a thing. Maybe there's a product or something.
I like to mention my son.
Nice.
Sergeant Noah Toscano, USMC. He's currently in Yuma, YPG, doing some testing for some new weapon system. But I'd just like to say that, he's my hero. He keeps me motivated. He's out there. He doesn't get, obviously, everybody that's been in the military, you do stuff and you never get recognized. And it's something that, he also too, during this time frame of me going through cancer and then my wife having a stroke at the same time, he actually came home from deployment in Okinawa to take care of both me and his mom. So he was here for 5 months taking care of us.
Hell yeah.
During that time frame. So that's why he's my hero. He's mine and my wife's hero. So
very well deserving. Definitely. Yeah, and what's his awesome. Shout out his name again? Noah
Toscano. Yeah.
We salute you, Noah. How about you, Steve? You got one?
Yeah, I was very blessed to be afforded the opportunity this past February. I was part of Team United States for the Invictus Games, which is the international version of the DoD Wounded Warrior Games. And
nice.
I got to compete in the Warrior Games before that, the year before, but at Invictus, I'll tell you that I still reflect on it now about the incredible inspiration, like my teammates I met service members from all around the world, 23 other countries, and just seeing them take on these challenges, these physical events and athletic competitions and things. And like some of them working through, I mean, I saw a guy jump in the pool with one arm, no legs, and was getting at it. And I think of like, swimming may not be a big deal, to me or to you or something like that. And I think of like the courage it took just to simply get in the water. And that could be such an incredible feat. And that's what I thought about. And to see just time after time, several individuals doing that. So yeah, that's the Invictus page. Like the next one, it's every other year. Next one's in Birmingham. It's founded by Prince Harry, combat veteran himself. But yeah, I was on Team United States, and I was very, very blessed to have that opportunity.
And
but
what sport did you compete in?
I got a silver medal while I was there with my basketball team. So I did the wheelchair basketball, swimming, alpine, skiing, and skeleton.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, at skeleton, I broke 60 miles an hour, which is, if you don't know what that is, it's the bobsled track. But you're alone and you're face down, head first on a sled about 3-4 inches off the ice. And I broke 60 miles an hour going up those walls and things. And I'll tell you that was absolutely a blast.
But where were they?
It was what?
Where were they this year?
These were in Vancouver. So okay. They changed locations. This was also the first time they did winter sports. Traditionally, it's summer sports events, but it was, and even domestically, if anyone has the opportunity to just go. The DoD Warrior Games are open to the public. This next one is in July in Colorado Springs. I won't be there, but each branch has a team. You want to see some inspiring service members. They're all part of their respective Wounded Warrior programs. So I when I was active duty, before I was medically retired, I was part of Team Navy, and it's how I ultimately ended up doing that. So these were essentially the last two things I did for the military. But it inspiring, I'll tell you, any sort of adaptive sports stuff, you want to get inspired, you see some people overcome some amazing efforts to overcome some challenges. It'll blow you away.
Now, this is Birmingham, the United
England.
States? Oh, in England.
No,
okay.
No, this will be the UK.
Oh, I was thinking Birmingham, Alabama. I was like, man, we could go to that. That would be.
So,
that would
but
be
no,
cool.
I mean, the Warrior Games are always going to be domestic. This moves around the world. This goes all over every 2 years. It's in another place. So this is simply the most recent thing. But what was unique about that, again, was 23 countries, and you realize what we'll talk about being sick or injured. We'll talk about relationships that we've established with peers and things throughout this burn pit stuff, I'm sure. But
yeah,
to see that in the athletic event, that bond and stuff, you realize like, you know what, there's people, they served their country for the same reason we served ours, and they're dealing with various struggles that absolutely translate. It's like, oh, we have that problem too, or I have that pain.
You know what I would like to do, Steve? Is I would like to do an episode on those games, and maybe we could get you and some of your teammates on, and we could do an episode and talk about. I think that's very interesting. Hell yeah. Yeah.
No, those are my heroes, man. They blow me away.
Yeah, very cool.
They're still getting it.
I had heard about those games, but I didn't really pay that much attention to it because I didn't really know what it was about. And then, of course, because Prince, whatever his name was involved. I was like, eh.
Lance and I climbed Kilimanjaro with an individual that he had lost a leg, and to see him, like, you could see him working through his mental walls and his physical feats that he needed to take on and stuff. And I mean, it makes you want to keep going. I'll tell you that. Like, it blows you away seeing people overcome.
Well, I remember we had Lance on when they did Kilimanjaro a few years ago, and the guy that had no legs, that was just trucking along. Lance, you're muted, by the way, in case you didn't know.
No, and that was Travis Strong. That was missing the legs, by the way. And
Travis.
Yeah, pretty phenomenal. And everything Steve is sharing, I think you having the opportunity to tell their stories and give them a chance to share more about overcoming those physical adversities, but it's also that mental side of people telling them that they can't, which in itself is a travesty. But I think, like Steve, I know for me personally, I don't have any of those physical limitations, and still watching those men and women overcome so much has inspired me to do things that I thought, I'm in my 50s, it's time to slow down. And I'm like, no, there's no excuse. If you've still got the ability, you need to take advantage of what God has gifted us with, especially those of us that have all of our limbs and they're working. We need to honor them by getting up off that couch and living our best lives, without a doubt.
Amen. Amen. Is there a particular hero that you have that you want to point out today, Lance?
You know, I'm going to give a shout out to my staff. There's not enough times when I'm able to say thank you to the men and women that work so hard for us as an organization, enabling us to do more for our nation's heroes. And I know they hear me getting on to them all the time about, hey, we got to do more, we got to do better. And I can't say enough good about them, right? And what they do every day, their own personal sacrifices away from, taking time away from their family and friends and the things that they could be doing, and giving time and serving and sacrificing for our nation's heroes that need so much more from us. So my heroes today are my staff for Sheepdog Impact Assistance and what they do every day to help us as an organization do more and do better.
You want to throw out some names? There's just so many. There's just so many. I'm going to put you on the spot.
I'd start listing my staff and I'd forget someone, and I don't want to take a chance of that.
I was trying to find a list.
They know who they are, and whether it's my staff at the office, staff at the ranch, or staff out there that are volunteering in disaster areas and serving as ambassadors for us across the nation. I can't say thank you enough to them, and I'm blessed to have all of them on staff.
And what do you got coming up with Sheepdog Impact? What kind of outdoor adventures you got coming up?
Well, we just finished doing a big outdoor adventure in Yellowstone, and we're geared. That was our winter package, snowmobiling, etc., in Yellowstone, and both of these gentlemen have been there. Well, Steve, I don't think you have yet, but I know Albert has, and we've got a summer package for Yellowstone coming up, and we'll also be at Mount Rushmore in South Dakota in the Black Hills. We've got Kilimanjaro coming up again this summer. And I'm also taking a team to Great Britain to hike Hadrian's Wall. That's going to be taking place next month. But
we lost him. I was going to suggest that he get in touch with Prince. Is it Charles? Harry?
Harry.
Prince Harry, and invite him.
Harry? Yeah.
Prince Harry. See if he wants to join him on that. I think that would be an awesome thing to do. Looks like we lost Lance there, so you guys get an opportunity, go to sheepdogia.org. You can get all the information about them there. You've heard me talk about them on the show. And again, as I said, Lance has been a regular on the show. So for our longtime listeners, you know who Lance is. You're familiar with Sheepdog Impact Assistance. But for you new listeners, go check them out. It's a worthwhile nonprofit organization that helps our military, law enforcement, first responder, men and women basically get off the couch, keeps them active, and that number we hear every year, 22 a day, is a lot more than that as far as the suicide rate of our military or law enforcement, first responders. It's much higher than that. It's this is something that should be, when the government gets into these epidemics and pandemic, it should be a pandemic, and they should put more effort into it. So get in touch with your senators, your congressmen and women, and make them get involved. Lance is trying to get in touch with us here, but we'll get him as he goes. But unless you got any more heroes that we need to honor, I think we'll let the Gunny get that jackwagon train out of here. We'll let the Lead Force One take off with our heroes, give them a flight around in the plush. It's like Air Force One, but it's Lead Force One. It's fully catered, Corinthian leather. It's nice.
Concealed carry has just spread like crazy. Sales of handguns to women, they are probably the largest growing sector of individuals to purchase firearms.
At Mission First Tactical, we're going to develop everyday carry products that allow people to comfortably, safely, discreetly carry their firearms to be responsible for their own safety. There's a vastly underserved market that's been growing, and that involves females. As you know, body shapes are different. Recently, we've developed the most comfortable, one of the safest belly bands on the market. A female body shape should not have to conform to product design for a male body shape.
Mission First Tactical is the official tactical accessories provider for the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Use the code LEADHEAD for an exclusive 20% discount on all orders.
All right, so let's get to our main topic, and I'm gonna introduce each of our guests here a little more detailed than what we did in the beginning, obviously. But the burn pits, it's a wound from war that nobody saw coming. The toxic smoke is still choking our veterans to this day, and a lot of them are struggling with getting the care that they need from the VA. Not only battling the illnesses that they're dealing with from this toxic smoke, they're having to deal and battle with the government and the VA and stepping up and covering them in this. So there's lawsuits and all kinds of things going on. But I just wanted to get a couple of gentlemen here, and Lance has got some experience with this too, but two people that were directly affected by this. And Steve and Albert, I greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to be on and sharing the information with us. Master Chief Hospital Corpsman Steve Flemming, he's a native Texan who served in the Navy for over 18 years before being medically retired in 2024. During his time in the Navy, he served much of his time with Marine Corps' operating forces within divisions across Africa, Afghanistan, and other Middle East nations on operations and exercises. He also served at Medical Education and Training Command, Naval Forces, Korea, and was ultimately retired as Navy Senior Enlisted Leader at Marine Corps Forces Central Command. In 2018, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and fought to remain in the Navy and continue his career. It was 5 years later, in January 2023, while in a deployed status, he was diagnosed with pancreatic neuroendocrine cancer, which would end his time in uniform. Following this news, he joined Sheepdog Impact Assistance on a climb up Kilimanjaro, where he summited August 2023. Congratulations on that, because that's no small feat there for the healthiest of us. This was the event that opened his mind to taking on new challenges and continuing his life on his terms. Since then, he has competed in adaptive sports and won a silver medal for Team Navy. We just discussed this at the 2024 DoD Warrior Games, and was selected for Team United States competing at the 2025 Invictus Games, where he again won a silver medal. He lives in Texas with his wife. I'm not going to name your family there. He spends his time searching for opportunities and ways to advocate and support the veteran community for wellness and health efforts. So, Steve, welcome in, and thank you for joining us. Looking forward to
appreciate you having me.
Looking forward to hearing your voice. Yes, sir. Sergeant Major, and it's AA Toscano. Where's the Alberto come in?
Oh, it's Alberto Aguilar Toscano.
Okay, so Alberto's the first one.
Yes.
Sergeant Major Toscano is a native of Los Angeles, California. Enlisted in the Marine Corps in April 1992. He underwent recruit training at 1st Recruit Training Battalion, Alpha Company, MCRD, San Diego, California. In August 1992, Private First Class Toscano completed Marine combat training and School of Infantry at Marine Corps Base, Camp Pendleton, California, as a machine gunner and earning the MOS 0331. Tell us what that is.
It's a 0331. It's just the MOS designator for a machine gunner. So
okay. Late September 1992 is when he did that, and then in October of 1992, Private First Class Toscano was reassigned to Marine Corps Barracks 8th and I for Presidential Support Program, Washington, D.C. That's what our gunny says during our intro there. In October 1994, Lance Corporal Toscano was reassigned to Alpha Company Weapons Platoon, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, 1st Division, Camp Pendleton, California, where he served as a machine gunner and machine gun team section leader until being honorably discharged in April 1996 as a corporal. In June 1996, Corporal Toscano joined Bulk Fuel Company, D, 6th ESB, 4th FSSG, Phoenix, Arizona. What is that?
That's just a local reserve unit here in Phoenix. So, there was no infantry unit here, so I had to join
in the reserves.
Yes.
Okay, and then you were promoted to the rank of sergeant in January 1997. Man, you did all this. I graduated college in 94, and you've already done all this by 97. And served in multiple billets from platoon sergeant, platoon commander, and operations chief. In January 2003, Sergeant Toscano was mobilized for Operation Iraqi Freedom with 6th ESB as a bulk fuel platoon sergeant and was promoted to the rank of staff sergeant in March 2003. What kind of fuel were you dealing with?
We dealt with JP8, mostly JP8. So at that time.
So I worked at an airport here in Nashville. I worked at an FBO, and I worked with the jet fuel and the avgas and all that, and just being around that for like the short 3 years that I was involved with that. I mean, I would get migraine headaches, so I know that alone was affecting me. So. In 2007-2008, Staff Sergeant Toscano was again mobilized with COB 8 to MEF Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, for his second combat deployment to Iraq, serving in numerous billets as bulk fuel section chief and security element SNCOIC. What is that?
Staff NCOIC. So
okay, for Engineer Company C. In July 2008. Staff Sergeant Toscano was promoted to the rank of Gunnery Sergeant, where in January 2009, he was reassigned to H&S Company, 3rd Battalion, 24th Marines in Bridgeton, Missouri, and served as the company Gunnery Sergeant and was again mobilized in 2009 for a 3rd combat deployment to Iraq. In January 2010 to May 2010, he was deployed on a 4th combat deployment as the SNCOIC on a MITT team. What's a MIT team?
A military transition team. So I was a senior enlisted advisor for the Afghan National Army Kandak. So
okay, and that was during Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. In June 2011, Gunnery Sergeant Toscano was reassigned to 6th ESB, served in the billet as the company first sergeant from June 2011 to May 2012 until being promoted to the rank of first sergeant in May 2012. First Sergeant Toscano was reassigned to Alpha Company, 4th Light Armor Reconnaissance Battalion, Camp Pendleton, California, from May 2012 to May 2016, until being promoted to his current rank of Sergeant Major, San Diego, California, from June 2016 to April 2018. Sergeant Major Toscano was reassigned in April 2018 to 2nd Battalion, 23rd Marine, Pasadena, California. In June 2018, Sergeant Major Toscano was again mobilized for, is it unit deployment program?
correct.
Okay. You got Unite there, so I just want to make sure I get it right. Okinawa, Japan, from October 2018 to April 2019. Sergeant Major Toscano retired in November 2020, so 5 years ago. Sergeant Major Toscano, his personal awards include the Merited Service Medal, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, and Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal with 1 gold star, Combat Action Ribbon, Good Conduct Medal, Selective Marine Corps Reserve Medal, and you got 4th award in parentheses. What's that? 4th award.
That's just a 4-time awarded. So.
Oh, okay. Awarded that 4 times. Very good. So I think very well qualified to be on this episode and cover this topic. So, Albert, I greatly appreciate you being on. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. And then Sergeant Major Lance Nutt has been on the show several times. Is he still with us? I haven't looked on the screen.
No, he's not showing.
Okay, so I'll do a brief, because most of our listeners are familiar with Lance. And I had his credentials right here. Bear with me. Here we go. Sergeant Major Lance Nutt. He was born in Crossett, Arkansas in 1970. To Major Larry Nutt, which we talked about. Larry, he was a Marine Corps naval aviator. It was his dad and his mother, Robbie Nutt, registered nurse. He spent his life in the company of heroes traveling the world as his father relocated to different duty stations around the globe, which sounds like what Albert did quite a bit. In 1988, Lance was sworn into the Marine Corps by his father. That's an honor. How many people get to do that? He served his first tour in the Marines until after Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, then attended the University of Arkansas at Monticello, earning dual majors in business management and communication. He returned to the Marine Corps in 1995, serving as a Marine recruiter until 2000, at which time he stepped away from the Corps to work for major retail marketing companies in Northwest Arkansas. I bet that's Walmart. In 2003, and with the war on terrorism in full swing, Lance returned to the Corps, longing for the opportunity to serve again. From 2003 to 2016, Lance served multiple combat tours with 3rd Battalion, 24th Marines, 4th Recon Battalion, and 4th Force Recon Company. Lance retired from the Marine Corps in November 2018 as Sergeant Major of the 23rd Marine Regiment, finishing 30 years of honorable service. And we know the history of how he went in and started Sheepdog. So, again, he's got a long career in the military, experience with these burn pits as well. So, hopefully he'll be able to hop back on and join us for this. So, gentlemen, that outline, again, was just something I threw together just to get everybody's thoughts going and talking points. But basically, I guess what we should start off with is for those listeners that aren't familiar with what a burn pit is tell them what a burn pit is. Would one of you guys like to do that? Or do you want me to?
So it's exactly as it sounds. It's a literal pit that all the debris, whether boxes, bags, materials, batteries,
Tires,
bloody uniforms,
bio,
is thrown into, and
bio waste.
when it hits a certain volume of material or a certain time of day, depending on what location you're at, somebody goes out there with some fuel and sets it ablaze, and it burns it down, and the cycle continues.
It's typically what, like jet fuel? Is that what they use?
They use they usually use like I wouldn't say jet fuel. It just depends on where your location is, I would say.
Yeah,
like
whatever they got handy.
They just it's whatever accelerant, and you don't. Yeah, you go out there, you dump a little bit just to get it going. Once you get it going, that's that. I mean, they're used all over they're all over the region.
Yeah, and we're talking about Iraq and Afghanistan in particular, but burn pits aren't anything new to Iraq and Afghanistan. The military has been using burn pits, probably forever, but
really since 1990. The Gulf War really kind of kicked off burn pits specifically. There were some in Vietnam, but Vietnam had its own toxic exposure issues, but the Gulf War is where they really became prevalent, and then that process or protocol is carried on.
And the size and scale of it, it's not like, you got like in your backyard, you do a little backyard burn. These things are humongous. I mean, you're talking about tons of waste and material that are being burnt.
I would just say it all depends on where you're at. Like if you're on a combat outpost, it's obviously a smaller scale. But if you're in a large base, like in Iraq, Al-Assad or Toscano or something like Fallujah, obviously the scale is bigger.
Yeah.
It just all depends. But also too, it started to get more refined where they actually use furnaces to burn a lot of the stuff. So, and like the Master Chief said, it just depends on the time of day they burn them and stuff like that. So,
yeah, it's relevant, but some of these larger bases that were doing these, I mean, they were huge, they were humongous, and the winds out there, depending on how the winds are blowing, that smoke blows right back into the camps, and the troops are having to breathe this in for days, weeks at a time. There's no relief from it. You just got to suck it up and go. Now, were they digging holes for this, or are they just piling it up on the ground and then burning it that way, or is it just
both? It just depends. Like again,
there was no standard.
A fob is different than a patrol base. So I worked and lived at a patrol base, meaning we were out there. It was kind of like you just kind of dug around if there was and made sure that it was slightly graded so that nothing would roll out or anything like that. But if you go to a fob, you have heavy equipment and some of those kinds of things. They can actually dig into the earth and kind of push everything back and kind of create this ramp kind of thing, if you would, and they can dig in. From my experiences, we'd go in for resupplies. Those are larger installations, if you would, a lot more people, a lot more logistics needs, therefore a lot more stuff to burn. They're going to have a significantly more established burn pit versus a patrol base. You're going to have a lot less infrastructure available to dig in, if that makes sense.
Right. It just depends on what equipment and all that they had available. Now, did either of you man or operate any of the burn pits directly?
I lived and slept next to one about 20, 30 feet away.
Right.
Yeah, I was the same way. We slept close to one. You'd wake up in the morning and you'd smell it. It'd be like a little fog kind of like come over the camp. Specifically when I was in Camp Leatherneck, out there, it was close, right there, they'd have a burn pit. And so, and it was pretty huge. So, but it just all depended on where it was at. So, but if you were in charge of a FOB or a COP, a combat outpost, then it would be more of a, whoever the senior guy is, they put, hey, you'd be in charge of making sure the trash gets burnt, so, it doesn't pile up. So.
Now, when you say it was pretty big, how big would you say?
It just depended. Like I would say, maybe a 10 by 10. Maybe it just depended.
How many people were at your campsite? Your base. In particular, I mean, just give me a 500, 300, 200, 10, 20. What are we talking?
When I was at Leatherneck, I mean, there was a Marine Expeditionary Brigade. So, and then also to Camp Bastion, which is this was in Afghanistan, was a British base, air base. So, I mean, it was, I don't know the scale. It's like a big, just like a landfill, should I say, type
size of a football field.
Yeah, give or take, I would say.
Okay, yeah. So I was just kind of give our listeners a scale. I mean, that's huge.
Patrol base. I was at Patrol Base Alcatraz for most of my tour that year, and it was about 50 of us at the patrol base between the two teams, and it was probably a 25 by 25, 30 by 30.
Yeah.
For about 50 people.
And how much time did you spend there?
I was in country that year from February to October. Was my window, so I was there for the whole fighting season.
Yeah, so from February to October, during that stint, you were constantly exposed.
Yeah, I lived next to that thing.
Yeah,
like and no wall, no fence, no barrier. Like I could realistically, when I finished something, if I wanted to throw it, I could make it.
And there was no standardization as to what they could and couldn't burn. They just burn everything. Batteries, like you said, tires.
We airdrop supplies on these like plastic pallets to save weight and stuff. They use these like plastic pallets. I mean, those go in there. Everything goes in there. Batteries are dead. They go in there. Uniforms, bloody. They go in there.
Biomaterials,
food, like your wag bags, like this got broken and damaged. Like document it. Goes in there.
You just had to make sure that obviously when you're burning something that there was no explosives or ammo and that type of stuff in there. So
it's really the only rule.
I mean, once in a while one would slip in there or whatever, but nothing crazy.
So were there man details that were in charge of taking stuff to the burn pit, or they just let anybody go and dump their trash in there?
No, you just go and throw away your stuff.
Yeah, like if I was going on a like with my, I was in Afghanistan and we were traveling place to place with our Afghan National Army, we would go to a COP or a FOB somewhere and we'd dump our trash there. And they would like, hey, can you take our trash? And we're like, yeah, but just throw it over there next to the burn pit. And so that's basically it. So you as a person that's there on a FOB, you don't really know what's getting burnt. Yeah. Because you don't know what unit's doing what. So, yeah.
At the time, how much thought did you guys put into the toxicity of this stuff you're breathing in? Was there any, what are they doing? This isn't healthy. This can't be healthy for us. Or was it just like you had your mind on other things and it didn't really concern you at the time?
You avoided, you didn't go stand in the smoke path. Like you would try to, you're aware of it enough to know hey, the wind's blowing a certain way, you move similar to the campfire smoke is in my face. I don't want to sit here and just take it. You move and stuff out of the way. but like that's about the extent of it. But like you got so much other stuff, but you're saturated in an environment that like nothing there is good for you.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, some of these, I've been to a lot of the Middle East. It's pretty weird how everything is just so hazy in some of these countries. And you're just, I mean, it's everywhere. It's not just Iraq and Afghanistan, just to be clear.
Sure.
It's not. I can tell you that right now. I've been a lot of places. And it's interesting that, you know, you go to some of these, Qatar is very, very hazy. You're just breathing in. You got the indigenous areas are burning stuff as well. You know, like the locals, you know, they don't have trash service in Afghanistan or in Iraq everywhere, right? So like they burn their own stuff as well. So it's just kind of everywhere.
And this haze that you're seeing, that's due to all these burnings.
I mean, it's a contributing thing, right?
Sand,
so like they've
dust.
been doing this for so long, right? It's not the United States military is the reason that the Middle East has so much haze. It's just but it's interesting to me that, you know, you get into some of these like populated areas or things where it's very hazy and like everyone's burning their stuff, and you get into some of these like large. I've been to Calf and Leatherneck and things, and there's times it's just things are really. Is it like
a LA haze, smog kind of deal, or is it something completely different?
Maybe, maybe it's just its own kind of thing. But you're just breathing in all sorts of stuff, and then, in my opinion, you know, we've done like there's a lot of research out there. I'm sure we'll talk about like heavy metal studies and things.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the decades and decades of conflict and munitions and things that go into the soil and all these things. And then you add in like the combustion component of all these materials that we're burning and things. There's like, from a science standpoint, it really is interesting. What we're learning and what ultimately we've got decades of service members that have been exposed to without really knowing it.
Yeah. Now, how many years did you serve overseas in Afghanistan, Iraq, Steve?
Afghanistan, I did one specific tour there. I've been to Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Uzbekistan.
Like in total, just what would you say the time span was?
A couple of years. I've been a few trips all over the place.
Yeah, so over 2 years, we'll say. What about you, Albert?
I would say 3.5 maybe total.
Yeah, 3.5 years.
Time.
And every time you had these burn pits that you're dealing with.
And I would say in 2003, because when we first went in, we burnt. We asked what do we do with our trash, and obviously just said burn it. And so we would burn it with fuel and stuff like that. But obviously it was, not at a huge scale as it was, through the years. But it got prominently more and more, obviously what we're going to do with this. So it was just like, one place I would say it's more than the other. I don't know, my time in Iraq, I would say was, you couldn't smell it as much, should I say, but when I was in Afghanistan, specifically in Camp Leatherneck, because there was also a Afghan national base right next to it called Shoreback, where the Afghanis were just burning stuff all over. I mean, they didn't care, they were just, I'm sure you've seen it, and Steve, I'm sure you've seen it, and it's whatever. They just throw everything in there. They don't care. So yeah, it was pretty bad. And you'd wake up in the morning and you'd smell it. It's just through the day you'd smell it. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
So.
And then, like you were saying, Steve, you do your best to try to avoid it when it was coming your way. But at nighttime, when you're sleeping, you don't. And I'm sure it affected your sleep cycle too. I've talked to some vets that when they were around the real bad ones, it's like we couldn't even sleep. It was so bad. So, the effect that the sleep deprivation has on your health as well, just compounds everything if you're not getting the proper rest. But
Hi, Dwight Settle with Seal One. We've had some questions about our different products. So our CLP Plus comes in a paste, a liquid, an aerosol, pre-saturated board patches, and cloths. Now they all do the same thing, just different methods of delivery. Our product is you're putting it on, you're wiping it off. It's designed to work best when it has all been removed from the surface. We're safe on all metals, plastics, composites, rubber, wood, leather. It works on them all.
Seal One is a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Use the code LEADHEAD for a 25% off discount.
At what point, you were over there more than 2 years, you're over there more than 3 years. Are you like, this is not healthy? Why aren't they doing something about this? Did you guys ever bring it up to higher command, and or was it ever addressed by higher command?
After every deployment, you do a post health assessment, and in the post health assessment, the Navy does it. I'm sure all the services branch do it. You have to write, and it does say, were you exposed to toxic or some toxic, just depends, what it was. Mm-hmm. And I know every person put down yes, obviously, because they can see it, and so that's the only thing. And obviously it's been documented since the beginning of this, so I just don't know where they just didn't see that this was going to be a health factor, in the long run.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's just,
the other thing it's the post-deployment health assessment, and then 6 months after you get back, you do the post-deployment health reassessment, and that's after every tour, right? And like the tricky thing is, in my opinion, kind of twofold. So those that stayed in, Albert and I stayed in and continue to serve, and I got sick on active duty and things, and that was obviously reported and connected and those kinds of things. But the majority, when you really break it down, majority of service members get out, right? More people get out than stay in and make a career out of it. And so from a reporting and tracking standpoint, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to, once you leave service and you could go into veteran status and you just go and live your life, free America. It's really hard to figure out what is related, what's connected, like who's got what. A lot of guys disappear and fall off the radar of like big tracking data, and like they've only got their few friends they talk to and things. And then I would also argue that we're also kind of our own worst enemy. The veteran community is not, no one has ever accused us of being like big bubbly sharers. That's never, we've worked and grew up in a profession, so definitely within combat arms. The rule number one is don't put anything on the team. That's kind of the rule number one. Nobody wants to hear you whine and complain. Like everyone needs to get up the mountain. Everyone needs to get down the road, whatever, right? So like everyone's carrying extra food, water, and batteries, dude. Keep marching. And so that kind of stuff stays with you, right? That mental toughness, that fortitude, that grit, some of those are very positive things. But you also run into the challenge of getting somebody that's transitioned into like that veteran status of how many of them are actually communicating and sharing their problems. And I think that's something that needs to be worked on and communicated across the community as well. It's already hard enough to track somebody when they're no longer in the big machine and they're not reporting every day in uniform and mandatory physicals and things. But now that you're you're out of service and your health is on you to decide to go to the doctor when you should or shouldn't, and that kind of stuff. And like, how many of them are doing that? How many of them are communicating and things that they've got issues and stuff? How many of them just kind of get into like law enforcement, fire department, oil rig kind of work?
And that's
like
the thing.
That.
The thing too is with this is that these symptoms don't show up until maybe years later, and the military, like you said, if they get into some other profession to where like firefighting, well, how do we know that wasn't the contributing factor, versus this?
Also, too, is like when you transition out of the military, they do have what they call TRS classes, or they have classes, obviously transitioning classes out of the military. And it just depends on where you're at. A VA rep does occasionally will come and say, hey, I will take your medical record, let me give me a copy of it or whatever it may be. And I'm going to help you start at least get into the VA system. But some of the veterans don't, or the Marines or whoever's transitioning out don't do it. They're just like, no, I'm good,
Or they stop at disability. That's the other thing. They do their disability claim. Right. And they file their stuff. Hey, my knees are messed up. My back's messed up. I got ringing in my ears, blah, blah, blah. They do that. And that's it. And then you ask them, I've asked some of my knucklehead friends ever since I got sick. I'll call them and be like, hey, when was the last time you had a physical? Like, I don't know, when the last time you made me? I'm like, homie, that was 2014. You got out in 2014. You're telling me for 10 years you haven't had a physical? Like, okay, you may have knee pain, right? But like, have you gotten an answer as to why that hurts? If you know, hey, I have arthritis or I've got a partial tear, like you have an answer, expect pain. You can move on and do what you need to do to alleviate that. But if something hurts or if something is not right and you don't have an answer, why aren't you going and checking on that? So at least if something's the bigger problem. Yeah. And I now leverage my stuff personally. I was a corpsman, right? So like Marines called me Doc when I was a junior corpsman. And so like I throw that in their face all the time. Like, you're going to tell me no? You can't tell me no. I have cancer, but you can't tell me no. But you have to listen to what I say. I'll throw that in some of my old Marines' faces and stuff. I'm like, go get a physical. Yeah. Like, something's wrong. Go get a physical. Get some answers. Take care of yourself. Report some information so that you can stick around for your family.
And you think that's the mindset that they instill in you? Like
already mentioned, that delayed illness progression sometimes comes 5-10 years later. And the fact that that they've already left service, they're already disconnected from it and things. And
they didn't complain about anything then, and 10 years later they're complaining, well, how do we know that was during your time?
It creates a nasty cycle.
Yeah, it does. It does. So let's get into the illnesses. You both have cancer. Steve, you had MS. Was the MS prior to exposure to any of these burn pits?
MS came in 2018. So I'd been overseas a few times.
Okay.
And was diagnosed January 2018 with MS. I went through my med board process, fought to stay in the Navy, and got cleared. Ended up deploying to Korea during the pandemic, and then deployed back over with Marcent, and was bouncing around the Middle East all over for my general at Marcent at that time. But that came 5 years later. When they found my cancer, it was stage 4 already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And are they attributing the MS to exposure?
Yeah, there's no one knows what causes MS.
Yeah.
But yes, so in my team, during my time, for example, at Patrol Base Alcatraz, 9 of us had cancer and 3 of us had MS. I'm the only one with both.
Wow.
Which I thought was pretty interesting. And that's what I know of so far. So I've spent the last couple of years like calling guys and tracking dudes down, and it's a bunch of different cancers and things. But 9 of us, nine with cancer, 3 with MS. Those numbers you don't find those in normal.
I think I read points somewhere that the percentage of military men and women with some sort of related cancer is like 300 times higher than civilians, than people who have served. It's like 300% times higher. I mean, there's got to be something to that. It's just logical that the things that you guys have been exposed to are causing that. And there's no, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket doctor
I could, I agree with that, because it just depends too. It's like, I would just say, what depends on what MOS, but we go out and do stuff that, has hazardous material, whatever it may be. If it's burning or not, you're dealing with it either with your hands and obviously inhaling it. And so when it comes down to it, like now you go file a claim at the VA, they ask you what MOS you were. And a lot of times they'll be like, well, your MOS, doesn't put you in that category where you should be exposed to this. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So just like the ringing in the ears, we all shoot weapons in the military. No matter what MOS you are, you all shoot weapons. And so just because you're not in a combat MOS, they're like, no, that ringing is not due to you firing a weapon,
Yeah.
And it is, and it's like that. So
100% like that.
Yeah. So it's just like, really, but yeah, it's like, you just don't know. And now obviously with the burn pits, obviously exposed a lot of this, because, just like Agent Orange, for a long time, they wanted to, the Vietnam vets, they wanted to deny it, no, this is not from that. You're not getting cancer from that. And all of a sudden they said, oh yeah, that's coming from Agent Orange,
Yeah. Because they were trying to cover it up. They were covering their asses. Yeah. They knew. Yeah. They knew it was.
And just like the Gulf War vets too, the same thing, all the chemicals and all the dust and everything like that. Mm-hmm. You're not getting cancer for none of that. And all of a sudden now it is. So, yeah. So it's just one of those things that's, hopefully now they see the light. So, but
they don't, because this happens time and time and time again. Mm-hmm. They're going to deny it and deny it until they get caught. And that's the pattern of our government, and that's what they do. It's sad, and what can we do? I mean, it's ridiculous. Talk about your cancer that you've got, Albert.
So mine was stage 2. Throat cancer. So I was self-diagnosed actually. So I was shaving in September and I noticed a lump on my neck. I felt a lump. And so I went, I talked to my wife and, she goes, I go, what's this lump? She goes, oh, it's probably a swollen lymph node. You're probably fighting an infection. Yeah. Okay. So then obviously I Dr. Googled it and, they said within 7 or 10 days, if it's still there, talk to your primary. So I did. I talked to my primary at the VA, sent her a message, got in like a week later. And she did she gave me antibiotics, but she also did scheduled a CT scan and also blood work. And so I did that. The CT scan came back a few days later, and obviously they saw something. So then they I ended up talking to the ENT at the VA, and the VA obviously they wanted to see me, so they did a biopsy, and then within it came back positive, and so then they wanted to do a PET scan, so I got a PET scan done also, and then within a month time frame of me self-diagnosed, I had surgery. So, and they removed 2 centimeters of, luckily my tumor was capsulized, so it didn't spread per se. And so they removed my left tonsil, and they removed the tumor. They removed 3 lymph nodes, and then obviously I ended up going through that pain. Mm-hmm. And then when I healed, I went through chemo and radiation.
And what was the time frame of this that you went through? How many?
So I had surgery October 21st to remove this of 2024. And then I started chemo and radiation December 13th. I did radiation outside the VA because they're not equipped here in Phoenix to do radiation at the VA. The only thing they're equipped for is the chemo. So I had to go through 1 round of chemo once a week and radiation 5 times a week from that time frame in December all the way to February 10th.
Oh, wow. And what's the diagnosis now?
So I have a scheduled PET scan in May to see, obviously, they got it all. And then for 6 years, I have to, go through the rigor routine of getting checked for the next 6 years. And so, speaking with my ENT, everything looks good. It looks like it's healing properly. I have no taste. I still can't taste too much stuff. I lost 30 pounds total. I'm slowly regaining it back because I wasn't able to eat. I was on a feeding tube for that whole time frame. And I just got the feeding tube removed 3 weeks ago. So
oh, wow.
Little by little, regaining my strength and stuff like that. So
now for both of you guys, has the VA stepped up and, said, yeah, are you getting any flack from them on covering and benefits and stuff like that? Or are they doing pretty good with that? If you had to fight the VA, no. I guess, for any payments?
Me personally, no. They were pretty on top of it. Should I say, every time if I needed something, they would give it to me. They sent me meds. They sent me, if I called them, they would give me whatever they needed. Whatever I needed, should I say, they would give it to me. If I had an issue, I had a dietitian, I had a pill person come and talk to me about, medicines. And so, but whatever I needed, they were always, they were pretty, and they still call me now. They still call me just to check in. So, but I don't know if it's, I'm just an anomaly that they do that to, but
how about you, Steve?
Yeah, they were pretty.
I don't use the VA for cancer care. It's service connected. I had zero issue with that. I mean, that was immediate, and largely because of the PACT Act, which we can talk about later. But I started my care while I was still active duty at MD Anderson. That's like a world-class cancer center here in Houston, and so I've just continued. I just use my retired TRICARE and go there, and I've had, I got all the specialists and everything needed, but the VA has me connected, and like I can go there if I want. Like they offer anything and everything, but I'm already established with. I had 18 months of cancer care already at this one facility prior to being medically retired, so it just made sense to stay with my team that already knows me. But I've had zero issues in terms of when I went to the VA to get established and service connected, them saying, hey, we're here, we own it if you want us to take the wheel.
Yeah. Steve, like for me, soon as I did service connected, they did did the claim. Within 20 days, I was approved. That's how quick it was. I've never seen that ever. Ever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For service connection.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I went through the IDES process. Obviously, I went through a different retirement process, and they do all that for it. But yeah, I mean, there was zero dispute. My MS is connected, service connected. My cancer is service connected, and then the litany of joint and ears and other other weird stuff is all connected. But yeah, I had zero pushback or anything. They were just like, yep.
Yeah. Now, Steve, you said that you're in contact with your guys that you served with and encouraging them to go get checked out. Albert, Steve, talk about anyone else that you know that's going through and having, some of these health related issues. I mean, the health risks that have been associated with these burn pits are several different types of cancer, like lung cancer, leukemia, bladder cancer, laryngeal cancer. I guess that's the one you've got. Throat, as well as the respiratory disease, asthma, the COPD, bronchitis, things like that. So, any people that you served with that you've talked to that are also going through?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Steve.
I was say I got my list here. I'm not going to say any names or anything,
sure,
of course.
Sure.
But one guy, he passed away August of 22, and he had pancreatic cancer, which I have pancreatic neuroendocrine cancer, and it's stage 4. It's not going anywhere. It's with me. It's a part of me, and will be to the end. But he passed away a few months before I found out that I was sick as well, and he was there at Alcatraz. And then we've got a couple prostates, there's a liver, several melanomas, lymphoma. Somebody's got some bone cancer, and so these, I mean, it's all types. And then, like I said, three MS cases that I know of, all from my team or support teams in that patrol base. But getting guys to like get screened and get checked is always, the thing. I ran into guys, they'd be like, yeah, I got this lump. I'm like, dude, like, go get it checked, and luckily, like, that particular guy, it was nothing. It was like a lipoma that he could get removed and it'd be okay. But there's more guys out there. There's guys like ignoring stuff or whatever. And the reality is, like, the way I talk about mine is, I have pancreatic neuroendocrine cancer. Like I said, it's the primary tumors on my pancreas. It's spread across my liver, all lobes in my liver, and it's in my stomach. And I had no idea, had no symptoms. So, like, for me, there's functional and non-functional when it comes to neuroendocrine cancer, and specifically around the pancreas. And functionality refers to the secretion of hormones. So if it's functional, certain hormones can give you hypertension. So you have high blood pressure, or you develop GERD and you're throwing up and, acid reflux and stuff. Right. The point is, like, it gives you something that makes you go to the doctor to, like, get seen, figure out. Gives you some
kind of discomfort. Yeah.
And they can catch it early. Mine is not functional. The most common time they find my cancer is in the autopsy, when your body is no longer able to compensate. So I would occasionally have a stomach pain or something, like just a sharp little something, like, boom, like, ow, that sucks. And then it goes away. Most people would think that's a problem. I'm an MS patient. So if you don't know how MS works, it's your nervous system is being attacked by your body's self-defense mechanisms. So my white blood cells attack my nerves, and that creates damage on the myelin sheath, and I get nerve pain. Well, like, I get pain, something spasms and stuff anywhere in my body. If I went to the doctor every time something hurt, I'd just live there. So when you get a random pain in your stomach, you don't go to the doctor as an MS patient. It's like, I have MS, like, I'm having nerve damage in my abdomen, and
right.
That's just my life. Well, it turns out in that particular case, no, it wasn't nerve pain, but it was masked by the MS. And so, like, that's kind of how I tell people, like, you need to go get a physical, because the only reason I found my cancer was because I was really, really diligent on my MS care. And so every year I get CTs, or I get MRIs of my brain, my C-spine, and my T-spine every year. And it happened to grow and spread just enough that when they did my T-spine MRI in December of 22, they caught a glimpse of the top of my liver at the very bottom of the scan, and they saw what they thought was a liver lesion.
Oh, wow.
And so they said, hey, you should just get an ultrasound. It's probably fat. Fat comes and goes from a liver, just to rule it out. Well, I'm really diligent. Ever since I got MS, I was really diligent. So I knew I had a work trip overseas to the UAE in January, right after Christmas leave. I went on my work trip to UAE for a week. I got off a plane at like 5:30 in the morning, went straight to the clinic, was going to do my ultrasound, knock it out, and go to bed and reverse cycle through the weekend so that I'm fresh on Monday. That didn't happen. So they did the ultrasound. I got sent to the doctor, and I found out that morning, all wonky and in a different time zone, sleep all messed up. And they told me, you've got some serious cancer. And that got the ball rolling. And so, but I tell people that just because something doesn't look or feel right doesn't mean you don't get your annual physical, because you never know what you're going to find. And if I wasn't diligent on my MS care, I never would have known that this was happening to me.
Wow. What about you, Steve?
I know at least, I know 5 Marines, 3 lung cancers and 2 stomach cancers. And, they're still around. They did go, they're, same thing. They went through the VA and everything like that. So, it just depends on what it was, stage 3 and stage 4 for them. But, when it comes down to that, a lot of times they like Steve was saying, people, just the service members just don't get checked out, because we have that bravado of like, oh no, we're good. Oh, it's just this small little thing or small pain. I'll get over it. I can live with it.
Yeah.
But it's not, you never know what's going to be, and I told all the Marines that I know, Marines or service members, hey, have you gone to the VA, gone checked out, or are you in the system, whatever it may be? Don't try to push it off, because a lot of them do get scared because of, they want to join the police department or fire department and think that's going to hinder them and not being able to join. But it's not. It's false,
Yeah.
So, I always tell the guys that I know, guys and gals, I was like, hey, you guys got to go get checked out. It doesn't matter. Go get checked out, get in the system, do your annual checkups, and don't just do it. You got to do it.
Well, it's not only that, but it's the, having to deal with the stress of the system itself is like, I got to go do this. And if I do this, and I got to do this, and then they're going to put me through this, and I'm going to have to, it's like a hassle. It's like they make it a hassle. Any insurance, I'm just talking about insurance in general, but I mean, I can imagine with the VA, maybe what might be a deterrent is just to not to have to deal with the hassle of the people as well.
Also, too, it's getting more streamlined, where it's like more, you can go online and submit a claim online, so you don't have to deal with people.
And I know that's an old thing, but in some people's mind,
Yeah.
that's what they're thinking. But we're here to let you know, through Albert's experience and Steve as well, that the VA has gotten better and easier to deal with. So,
it's not perfect. By all means, it's not a perfect system. Just like anything, it's not a perfect world we live in, but still, it's one of those things that, and now they have it where if you do a claim, you don't have to go through it. The VA contracts that stuff out, where you go to a third party and you tell them the issues. And a lot of times they're not there to be like, say no. They're there to hear your story and be like, no, I agree with you. This is not good. So it's not like back in the day where the VA, you talk to a VA doctor and the VA doctor would be like, nope, you're fine. Nope, you're fine. You don't got this issue. Was it caused by the military? Whatever it may be.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the lawsuits and things that are going on. And you had brought up the PACT Act a little while ago there, Steve. Are you guys involved in any lawsuits or anything that are going on, like with this KBR lawsuit? They're a contractor that operated a lot of the burn pits there in Iraq and Afghanistan.
No.
Okay. I'm not real familiar with that, but there is supposedly some sort of lawsuit going on with that, and similar companies that were contracted out by the government to operate the burn pits.
The only lawsuit that I was aware of was the 3M with the
earplugs.
Yeah, the earplugs. That was the only lawsuit.
And there's like a AFFF one for like shipboard firefighting stuff and like airfield firefighting equipment. Yeah, I've seen some of it. I don't really have any interest in pursuing a group lawsuit stuff. My stuff, I don't have like with Albert, like my VA stuff and everything, like they service connected. Like I didn't get any pushback. My buddies that have cancer and stuff, I haven't had anybody tell me they've had any pushback. And I think the PACT Act, I'm a big fan of the PACT Act. I think there's a few things that we're still short on.
Yeah.
But
well, let's talk about that. So the PACT Act was signed into law in 2022. It aims to expand health care and benefits for veterans exposed to burn pits and other toxic substances. The Act recognizes more than 20 presumptive conditions related to burn pit exposure, including COPD, lung cancer, asthma, leukemia, and bladder. Some of the challenges and limitations of the Act. While the PACT Act has been hailed as a victory for veterans, it doesn't cover all conditions linked to burn pit exposure. For example, neurological diseases and autoimmune disorders are not fully addressed under the Act. Some veterans continue to fall through the cracks, unable to receive the care they need. Additionally, veterans continue to face significant hurdles when trying to access benefits, with some reporting long delays and bureaucratic obstacles that prevent them from receiving timely care, which doesn't seem to be your case with you guys.
So I think the PACT Act was a huge win, even from the get-go, because it has helped set that tone where I think Albert and I benefited in ways where it created that mechanism, right, for the VA to like own and accept and provide that safety net. That's what I see the VA as. Like I don't depend on the VA to like to make decisions for me and things, but like it is there to help be a backstop for my family, and like I can leverage it as I need to take care of myself and everything else while I'm still able to make decisions and things like that for myself, right? And it created that mechanism for the VA to say, yep, hey, like we recognize these illnesses. And they've done, I want to say they're on their second or third round of adding stuff. Like they've recently added like hypertension and things for individuals, because this goes back to Agent Orange. The PACT Act isn't just a post 9/11 thing. So Vietnam vets with Agent Orange exposure and Gulf War can tie into these things. It's like my uncle has an autoimmune disorder from the Gulf War that he struggles with today. And my grandfather, who gave me that sword from Vietnam up there, he passed away from cancer from Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam.
Yeah. So
and
what I'm reading here directly from the VA website, it says starting March 5th, 2024, last year they expanded VA health care to millions of veterans years earlier than called for by the PACT Act. So what you're saying, they've gone back to the Vietnam area.
Agent Orange is now covered under the PACT and stuff, so they can go all the way back to like the Vietnam stuff. But for like all these guys, like our generation, these post 9/11, burn pit and other exposures, service members and things, the PACT Act's huge. And all guys need to do, all service members need to do once they transition to veteran status is just, I recommend continue doing their physicals. Like, okay, like, because the thing is, it doesn't have to be diagnosed in service. When we get back to like the whole concept of well, it didn't happen to you while you're in active duty. Well, you don't have to get cancer on active duty anymore. The thing, we know that there's going to be delays and things. Cancer isn't something you sniff something and then all of a sudden the next day you wake up with cancer. So just go get your physicals. go take care. Like, you need to go do that and take care of yourself. And even if that's all you do is just go get your annual physical around your birthday, and something pops up 5-10 years later, and unfortunately now you've got cancer. Like, the PACT Act is a huge advantage in today's veteran community, where if something pops up down the line and you caught it early because you were doing your physicals and it's not masked and thing. I didn't catch it. That's my reality. But you do your physicals and things, and maybe you catch yours early, the VA will tie that back to your service that you're already registered and connected with. And that's kind of the message that I like to kind of push and tie back to that PACT Act. And also the burn pit registry, which I think everyone kind of does now with what Albert was talking about in the transition services. I know that comes up in the VA talks. Everybody should, if they've deployed, be on the burn pit registry.
Yeah. It says, am I eligible for the VA healthcare under the PACT Act? You're eligible to enroll now without needing to apply for disability benefits first. If you meet the basic service and discharge requirements and any of these descriptions are true for you. You served in the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, or any other combat zone after 9/11, or you deployed in support of the global war on terror, or you were exposed to toxins or other hazards during military service at home or abroad. Specific toxins and hazards include burn pits, sand and dust, particulates, oil well or sulfur fires, chemicals, radiation, warfare agents, depleted uranium, tank operators, that applies to them, herbicides, and other occupational hazards. Even if none of these descriptions are true for you, you may still be eligible for VA health care based on your service. And then they added 20 burn pit and other toxin exposure presumptive conditions to their list. Brain cancer, gastrointestinal cancer of any type, glioblastoma, head cancer of any type, kidney cancer, lymphoma, melanoma, neck cancer of any type, pancreatic cancer, reproductive cancer of any type, respiratory, breathing-related cancer of any type. Asthma that was diagnosed after service, chronic bronchitis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, chronic rhinitis, rhinitis, chronic sinusitis, constructive bronchiolitis or obstructive bronchiolitis, emphysema, granulomatous disease, interstitial lung disease, ILD, pleuritis, pulmonary fibrosis, sacroiditis. So you can go to vas.gov and they've got all this on there and more to help out with that. About getting benefits, toxic exposure screenings, information for survivors. So yeah, it sounds like they have, through this PACT Act, you kind of stepped up and owned it and are trying to do the right thing, I guess we could say.
Acro bags embrace the art of blending in with a low-vis, everyday carry bag featuring a dedicated, discreet firearm storage system. Designed to meet the needs of modern commuters and travelers seeking both functionality and security, the Acro 10-liter sling bag offers an array of organizational options in a comfortable platform. Whether you're a daily commuter, law enforcement professional, or a weekend warrior, this sling bag caters to your lifestyle with utmost precision. The dedicated, discreet concealed firearm compartment is ambidextrous with quick access. An MFT multi-mount platform is included, offering the ability to mount a holstered firearm or other 1.5-inch belt clip accessories, with custom orientation, utilizing a hook and loop system.
Mission First Tactical is the official tactical accessories provider for the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Use the code LEADHEAD for an exclusive 20% discount on all orders.
So, Albert, I wanted to ask you, when you discovered that on your neck, did you have a full body exam after that, just to make sure it wasn't anywhere else?
I had a full body physical. Obviously, they checked all my lymph nodes. The doctor did and stuff, and so. And obviously nothing, she didn't feel anything or anything like that. So, my doctor was very on top of stuff. So I owe, because a lot of times when you go in there for a swollen lymph node, doctors just give you antibiotics and, call it a day. But my doctor was on top of it, and she was, she's the one that ordered all this stuff for me. And so, and to me, I'm like, what do I need a CT scan, And so, but that's what helped me out a lot. So
I'm pulling up the open burn pit registry and give some information on that. What do you guys know about that, the registry?
The thing about the burn pit registry, it's just it's if you deployed multiple times, obviously it's a pain in the butt, I would say. For me, it was, but it's just like very detailed on where you've been and stuff like that. So you got to know, if you're like a guy that's been out for a long time and's been deployed multiple times, obviously you have to go back date. Where was I at? I was in Iraq or I was in Afghanistan, whatever it may be. And then the system was slow, obviously. I don't know if it's faster now, but I just had an issue with the system. It took me like multiple days just to get it done.
It says on August 1st, 2024, the VA and U.S. Department of Defense announced critical updates to the registry, including the broadening of participation criteria, clear opt-out procedures, and automatic inclusion procedures based on DoD records that vastly expand the number of participating veterans and service members. 2014, at the direction of Congress, VA established the Airborne Hazards and Open Burn Pit Registry to fuel research to advance treatments, enable more precise predictive medicine, and ensure proactive care and benefits for veterans and service members exposed to hazardous toxins. To learn more, there's a website that you can go to. I guess that's where you do the sign up, the register. And this is all on the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs website.
Yeah, and how I knew about the burn pit, I actually got a letter in the mail from the VA, saying to register for the burn pit. So that's how I knew about it.
Yeah, I read something to where they have tried to mail, call, email, get in touch with everyone on this. So you did receive something from them.
Yeah, I did receive something from them.
How about you, Steve? Did you receive any kind of?
No, I mean, this came up during the transition courses, the TAPS or whatever they call it now. I can't remember, but the transition courses that you do, and the VA comes, talks to you and everything else. I had already done it, but it's in their curriculum with everybody getting out or retiring. The VA rep kind of went over that and said, hey, here's the QR code for the hyperlink and blah, blah, blah. If you haven't done it, you need to get on it. But at the same time, like, it's not, you can once you're done, it like triggers like, hey, do you want someone to reach out to talk to you about setting up appointments and stuff? But you can also go to your primary care at the VA and ask like, hey, I'd like to do a toxic exposure screening exam and stuff. And they can do things like that as well. But it's nice to have that registry. You're in the system and things like that. And from a data standpoint, you think about it, and it's like people may have been, as more and more people do it, you're feeding into a data machine that as people are loading stuff in there, they can capture trends, and you never know what you're gonna, if all of a sudden, hey, like Patrol Base Alcatraz, you got all these guys did this burn pit registry, and now we're seeing, 9 guys with cancer and 3 with MS. Like, it allows that's how we're going to get better tracking across the community. And then that, in theory allows a possible mechanism for them to say, hey, let's ping this group of people we haven't seen in a while. We're seeing trends that aren't going great for the ones that we are tracking. Let's see if they've got something going on. I don't know if that's how it is going to go, but I think that the more people do it, it creates the opportunity for it to be possible to kind of capture that kind of data.
Yeah. And
also too, if you don't necessarily need to be seen by the VA, like Steve said, you can get what they call it's called community reach program. So community care. And so like say they can't get you in within 30 days, they offer you community care to be seen outside the VA. So at no cost to you.
Okay. That's good to know. Definitely good to know. So I was at the gym the other day, and I was talking to this guy who runs the gym there, and he's a veteran, and he served in Dubai. And this has nothing to do with burn pits, but it has to do with this issue. While there, this was like in 2008, 2009, there was some sort of a chemical spill in that bay where they were stationed. And it was some sort of a corrosive chemical, because it was eating the brass away on the boats and on the machinery that was on deck. Like he's saying, there were people that were stationed on the guns. They said they could just sit there and they could watch the brass dissolving on the guns, on the casings and whatnot. And, they're breathing this in. And he said that, he was there for several months. And it turned the water pink. The whole water was pink. So I was like, when was this? He's like, it was like 2008, 2009. I said, do a Google Earth photo of this. And we did one like present day, prior to, and then the time that he was there. And it was, you could tell that the water, there was this pink effervescence around that whole area there. And I asked him if he'd had any issues or anything like that. And he was kind of that mindset, like you guys were talking about, the bravado. He goes, well, I had a couple of things here and there, but it's nothing that I want to, go to the doctor. I was like, dude, you need to go get checked out, because if that stuff's eating brass, it's definitely eating your lungs and other things too.
For sure.
But I would think that would fall in this category that they're saying that they cover if you serve between such and such time and, this, that, and the other. So if you're a veteran and you've had exposure to any sort of toxic burn pit chemical injection, the COVID, we were talking about the COVID injections a few episodes back. And I wanted to give an update on that during the jackwagon train. I meant to do that because, we had mentioned that this current administration is offering back pay to those who, and reenlistment opportunity for those who want to reenlist and get their back pay. Now there's certain stipulations and things like that. You gotta look it up and see. But I was reading an article. Let me see if I can pull my article up that I had here. And I was just curious as to date how many people actually have reenlisted. It says, here it is right here. I'll pull it up. And this is from the Military Times. Is that showing up there? Where'd my tab go? Here it is. The Military Times, troops boosted over COVID vaccine show limited interest in rejoining. It says roughly 650 Marines and Army soldiers who were forced out of the military for refusing to get the COVID-19 vaccine have so far expressed interest in returning to the force under an executive order from Donald Trump. The number represents about 8% of the roughly 8,200 troops who had been discharged. The total, officials say, confirms military leaders' early view that many troops have moved on with their lives. They've been allowed to rejoin since 2023, and Trump's offer of providing back pay may be a factor in spurring a bit more interest now. The Army and Marine Corps have been sending out emails, texts, and phone calls to service members discharged for refusing a pandemic-era order to get vaccine. The Navy and Air Force are planning to begin their efforts to contact service members, but are waiting for additional guidance, whatever that means. The totals would likely increase once their formal notices go out. Here's the numbers right here. As a result of those notices, of the 3,748 Marines discharged, 25 opted to re-enlist. Of the 1,903 Army soldiers discharged, 73 returned. Of the 1,878 sailors discharged, 2 returned. Of the 671 airmen discharged, 13 returned. Now, what I want to know on these numbers is how many are still alive that can't re-enlist because either suicide or health issues or, whatever it may be. They don't give you that. So just wanted to give you guys an update on that because I told you I'd keep the finger on the pulse of this and see actually how effective it's going to be. Do you guys have any experience with that, with the COVID stuff? Know anybody?
No. My son my son's active duty right now. He actually had one of his Marines buddies come back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's back.
And just to clarify, it's not mandated any longer. I think 2023 or something like that, they lifted the mandate on the COVID jab. What else were we going to cover on this? Have we covered? I guess we talked about the VA where they can go, they can get some help. They need to get on that registry. That's the first thing they need to do, or the first thing you recommend is going and getting a physical. Go and get in that physical.
Just get in the habit. I think I'd like to call it too. There's a organization I talk to quite a bit. And there's another one I don't have any direct association with or anything, but I monitor what they put out. But one of them is Hunter 7 Foundation. Hunter 7 being the call sign of the founder's husband. He passed away of cancer, but Hunter 7, all they do is it's a group of clinicians that all they do is research and put out information around toxic exposure. And they've covered some really unique and interesting things they put out across social media and things. They share their studies and stuff like that. Anything from shoot houses. They talk about like prolonged exposure to shoot houses and like eating and drinking inside of them, like and the risks associated with the carbon and the gas offsets and things that guys get exposed to, and how, hey, debrief outside the house all the way to the burn pits, you name it. I've talked to them. I've talked to the founder regularly via text and stuff. She's amazing. They have programs. If you get diagnosed and you need support, they put out support services, but they've also got a burn pit tracker on there. So if you go to the top, go to their about or something. Let me see. I'll pull it up on my computer to tell you. So they have a thing you can pull the data on this map.
Oh, really?
Of what year you were in, I think it's under research programs. Let me see. I'll tell you exactly where it's at, and you can go to it and show it. But you can click the country, what year you were there, and go all the way down to like the FOB.
Oh, wow.
Toxic exposures that you have been, exposed to. And so like I voluntarily opened up my stuff to them. I gave them access to my health information. That's my choice. I'm not saying everybody needs to do that, but if you're interested in like, hey, like I want to give you some stuff. And like, I was here at this time and this kind of stuff, and you've got something going on.
That's huge. That's great information.
They told me about some of the guys that I tracked down and followed up on.
Wow.
And my thing's going kind of slow right now. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm pulling up.
But
So for our listeners who are listening right now, if you go to hunterseven.org, that's the website. And just on their homepage, they've got a little tracker there that says 4.2 million veterans have served post 9/11 in support of a global war on terror. 5,443 of those veterans have died in combat operations. 580,000 of those veterans died after military service for unknown reasons. 92.6% reported exposure to toxins while deployed.
Their social media is where they put a lot of their studies, and I highly recommend people kind of follow them. And like, you'll see they put out, they'll put out announcements of service members and veterans that they're tracking and when they pass away, and tell you about them. They do a fantastic job of like really advocating and bringing awareness. But what I really liked about them too is they would, like, you can click some of these, like that one with all the words. There's like, if the hyperlinks in some of these have links to their study and like the data that break it down, and then they'll be like, oh, here's the study that shows it and things. And then there's all the comments and all that stuff. But they put out amazing stuff. But they will send a veteran a cancer, early detection cancer screening kit. And they'll pay for it. It's called the Guillory test. And what I've had this done for probably 24 service members that I know. And what they'll do, it doesn't tell you if you have cancer, but what it does is they do like a DNA swab and stuff, and they send it off to the lab, or a blood draw. It's a blood draw.
Yeah.
So you go get a blood draw, it gets sent off, and they analyze it for cancer markers. And they may not be able to say, hey, you have liver cancer, but what they're able to tell you is, hey, your liver enzymes are at a certain level. You need to go see a specialist, or your kidneys, or your lung. Like they kind of look at the different markers and try to help the service member kind of get an idea as to, hey, you got something you should be aware of. Like these levels in this particular part of your system are elevated. You should go find out why. That's not normal.
You should have led with this website, because this is great. I would have liked to have had these guys on. You should have let me know about this. I could have got them on with us. This is amazing.
And so yeah, they're a great organization. They're based out of Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode Island.
So it's just they do some great work. And the other one that I follow on social media is Burn Pits 360, and they put out. They do a lot of like functions and veteran get-togethers at orgs and different programs, and they put out information as well. I don't believe they're as robust as Hunter 7, but they're another really good one that is really, they do a lot of advocating within the political side and trying to push for expansion of the PACT Act and things. And so if anyone's looking for organizations to support, or looking for support, those are two legitimate sources that somebody can tap into.
Absolutely, yeah. Those are great resources there. And I was going to mention the Burn Pit, but I wasn't aware of the Hero 7. So very good. So yeah, if you guys have questions, you need more information, you're a veteran, and I would go to visit one of these websites, or both of them, burnpits360.org and Hunter7.
Yep.
Is it Hunter? Yeah, Hunter7.
Yeah,
Hunter7.org.
Hunter7 Foundation.
Super. Yeah, and they've got Instagrams, Facebooks, all that. There's, I pulled up one thing on Hunter7. They've got like a huge document research on this, and goes real deep into it. Very good. What about you, Albert? Are you aware of any organizations out there that might be beneficial to somebody to go check out?
Not really. Like I said, like I'm new to this, so like this just happened to me. So I wasn't really. I was just more focused on, my care. But since I've had this, I posted a couple things online about myself, and obviously, the Marines and service members that I have friends, obviously they're just asking like, hey, what happened? And I let them know like, hey, make sure you go get checked out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great point, is your own circle. Just check within your own circle and check on the men and women that you served with, and just see what's up and what they're going through and what's going on with them. And like you got it. You might want to reach out to people. You say, hey guys, you might want to go get this checked out, this physical done. This is what happened to me.
No, and I did it. And, I've had quite a bit of service members, actually go get checked out and, go get seen and sign up for the burn registry and just be more proactive on their healthcare. Because this is a silent killer. You don't know. A lot of times you don't know you have it until it's almost too late. And then, it's just one of those things. I just wish, I think I was fortunate enough to just, self-diagnose, and it's one of those things that I could have just said, it's nothing, and just, waited. But just with the healthcare going on with the vets, no matter what it is, knee, back, whatever injury you got, little things that come up, you never know until
well, our veterans deserve better, better care, better recognition. And the accountability, this PACT Act shouldn't never had to have been put into place. Just need better accountability for the harm that's been done. While you guys are protecting our country, our interest. It's on us to keep pushing for the changes, that will address this. So we have to do that. You have to do it grassroots. You have to do it locally. You got to get the correct politicians. I hate politicians, but you got to get the right people in there representing our needs and our interests and our military men and women needs and interests. And there's other great organizations like Sheepdog Impact Assistance. Welcome back, Sergeant Major.
Good to be back. Thank you. I hope y'all had a good talk without me.
It's been an excellent talk, but I did want to give you the opportunity if there was anything that you wanted to hit on. But we basically covered everything here. So you got anything you want?
Yeah, I think basically what I just heard there in closing, it's imperative that we have people like yourself, Marty, through this platform and so many others out there, where people are willing to share, what it is that's happening to our veterans at so many levels when it comes to the support that they so desperately need and deserve. And the fire pit, the burn pits, it's a perfect example of, I run in a circle where everyone knows about burn pits. And then I got on a podcast with you and you hadn't heard about it, right? And that reminds me of just how many people out there have no clue about what it is that burn pits have done to our nation's veterans and how they're suffering. I always talk about how this is our generation's Agent Orange. For years, the VA and our government denied that Agent Orange was an issue and that there's no way that this was causing cancer and all the diseases that Agent Orange created within the bodies of our veterans. And, fortunately, the VA is being more proactive when it comes to burn pits, but information to make sure all of our veterans are aware that there are resources within the VA, but also to make sure that fellow Americans at every level know, understand, and appreciate what it is that our men and women are fighting. And I think the hardest thing that we preach, and I say this, it's the hardest thing to get people to understand. The wars and the battles may be over when it comes to deployments overseas, but the battles that our men and women are fighting back here at home in many ways are just beginning. because as that community continues to come home and try to heal and begin their lives and the journey of healing and continuation and growth, there's so many things that they're fighting within the realm of physical injuries, emotional trauma, which leads to post-traumatic stress, and now years later, things that come from the side effects of burn pits, right? And it may be 4, 5, 10, 15 years from now where we start learning about other elements that we knew nothing about that might impact them. So we can't let our guard down. We've got to make sure that we're staying vigilant when it comes to the needs of our nation's heroes. And obviously you've had 2 men on today that are the epitome of what it is that we're fighting for and why. So I just want to say thank you again to you for your willingness to make sure we do as much as we can to bring attention to this issue and to so many other challenges that we are facing today and that we might be facing in the future.
Well said. Well said. Do you guys, Steve, Albert, you have any final thoughts? Anything else you want to interject?
Just thank you for the opportunity to come on and have a good discussion, and appreciate you sharing our story and just doing one more step to where we're all trying to get to, right? So it's not one conversation, but this will hopefully lead to someone else having a conversation and so on. So appreciate you.
Yeah,
hey, Marty.
Same here. I'd like to say.
Go ahead, Albert.
Go ahead, Albert. I'll touch on Steve here in just a second. Go ahead.
I'd just like to say thank you also for having me on. This is a great conversation. When Lance, me and him go back since 2009. He was my company first sergeant with 324, and years later, he ended up being my regimental sergeant major. So me and him go back, and when he reached out to me asking if I wanted to do this, I didn't hesitate to say no. So it was one of those things, like I said, Marty, thank you for everything. And I hope this reaches out to a lot of people out there.
You guys are warriors. And like Lance said, I mean, there's so many of people like myself that didn't serve that aren't aware of what the struggles are that you guys are having to deal with when you come back home. And I feel it's very important. And this is my way to try and give back and bring the awareness that it so duly deserves. So thank you guys. You guys are warriors. Appreciate it. Lance, you were going to say?
Yeah, about Steve. I was remiss in mentioning the fact that Steve is our honorary speaker, guest of honor speaker at this year's gala that I mentioned earlier, on April 12th. So, I love Steve from the standpoint of the journeys he's been with us on, whether it's hiking Mount Kilimanjaro and his efforts through Team Rubicon and disaster missions that we've all been a part on and supporting each other's efforts. And just like Albert, he and I served together for so many years, Steve and I also had a chance to serve together. He was one of our senior corpsmen, and the opportunity to have Steve come and speak at this year's gala and help bring attention to the same things you've been highlighting today is critical, and I'm honored to have him there. So maybe another incentive and item for people to come and join us for this year's gala. But to both Steve and Albert, thank you for trusting in me and believing in me enough to take this chance with Marty to come on and share your stories. You're both loved and appreciated by me very much. And Marty, again, just thank you.
My pleasure, brother. And on the Heroes Gala, you also got Taya Kyle that's going to be there.
Taya Kyle, the
Chris Kyle's
spouse
wife
of Chris Kyle, right? American Sniper.
Yeah, that's awesome. Matt Preston going to be there. Are you guys going to have that awesome auction that you do every year as well? You going to have a bunch of cool things up for auction this year?
We will, and if anyone wants to support us by going to that, the link for the gala will take them to the link or the silent auction items And even if you're not at the gala, you can still bid on some of those items and support us from afar.
Very cool. Yeah, and if you want to buy tickets, you want to go to the gala, you can buy tickets to attend. I highly recommend if you've got an opportunity to do that. It is a night that you will not forget. And listening to Lance get up and talk, man, it really gets the hairs on the back of your neck to stand up. Very motivational. And I can imagine, with Steve talking and Taya, it's going to be really good this year. So
he didn't tell me she was going to be there also. So I got my notes in front of me for my spiel that I'm going to be giving, and I really got to bring my A game because
who's going first?
She's walking in with a full deck of everyone's going to be like, oh, what's she going to say?
Yeah, you might want to go first.
Yeah, I'm looking over my notes, so I really got to bring it.
Well, I know you'll do great. I've heard you speak
I'm
enough
looking forward
now.
to it. It is a great time, and I hope I hope we have a great turnout like we did last time. It was really something special.
Yeah, so go to sheepdoggia, that's sheepdoggia.org. You can get more information on the Heroes Gala. You can get information on their programs, the Warrior Path, their outdoor adventures, the new ranch that you guys have. Hopefully it wasn't damaged too bad. How's it looking out there? You just came back from there, I take it.
Yeah, just water damage, so I think we'll be good. We'll nothing structurally severe, so a little bit of cleanup and minor repairs, and we'll be back in business.
There you go. And if you are a veteran or you know a veteran that could benefit from the services that Sheepdog Impact Assistance offers, then you can get in touch with them there on that website. And then you guys also are doing the disaster recovery mission, still putting those together. Talk real quick to that because we've had several incidences happen here recently too.
Yeah, I mean, from a disaster response standpoint, that's initially as an organization what we were founded on 15 years ago. And the idea behind it, which rings true still today, is giving our men and women who have taken that uniform or badge off an opportunity to feel like they still have purpose, an opportunity to continue giving back. And so the power that it comes with excuse me, what we refer to as helping is healing when it comes to men and women that can get back out there in the fight, I think is critical. So if we've got any fellow sheepdogs out there that would like to participate in a disaster response mission, they can sign up via our website during any of our national disaster opportunities. And then, of course, anyone that may not be a sheepdog, having served in the military or as a first responder, you can still volunteer to work with us, and we'll give you opportunities to give back in the communities that have been impacted. So always a powerful opportunity to help communities that have been ravaged by disasters, and something we'll continue doing for as long as we can keep getting up off that couch.
Hell yeah. And Steve, I wanted to ask you, is there a way that people can support the American team and these the Warrior Games, the Invictus Games? How can we get behind and support that?
Every 2 years, it's a new team selected, but there's like corporate donors and things like that. I know it's all plugged in through the foundation. I'm not aware of one. I'll try to see if I can find out, and I'll share that. I know that at the Warrior Games, for example, the July in Colorado Springs, you can go to the website and sign up to be a volunteer. They do volunteers at Invictus Games as well, wherever it is. But like Colorado Springs in July, for those that want to do like DoD Warrior Games stuff, like you can volunteer. There's like a registry form and stuff like that somewhere on there. They put it out on social media. I saw the other day. So if you're local to Colorado Springs or willing to go out there, it's 2 weeks long. You don't have to go for the whole thing. But like I said, see some of these service members overcome their challenges and stuff. Like it's going to blow you away. That was my roommate, the guy doing the shot put down below at Invictus.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, he was my roommate. But definitely check that out. I don't believe that there's like individual donor stuff there, but there are corporate donors.
Well, I mean, we can root. How can we get behind you and root and show ourselves? Is there like
Yeah, Warrior Games will stream. That's the every year thing. So like the next one's Warrior Games. Like they'll stream on social media and everything. Their website will stream it as well, so you can cheer for your branch and kind of see the medal count. And they do the whole thing there under the results section and stuff. And then when Invictus comes around every 2 years, we were on ESPN. You had to have ESPN Plus, I believe. But yeah, monitor 2027 is the next Invictus. They'll announce in 2026, they'll announce who got selected based from the Warrior Games to go. It's about 50 service members across the joint force get selected for Invictus. And so they'll announce in 2026 who's going to the 2027 games.
Which team were you on? Army, Marines?
I was Navy. For the 2024 Warrior Games, and then obviously United States for Invictus 25. So
and you only get to do that.
Trials and things right now are happening. So like team tryouts are happening as we speak for most of the teams.
Can you repeat? Month. Can you go again if you were there before? They let you go?
You can do up to 2 Warrior Games, but you have eligibility wise, you can go as a veteran if you're within 1 year of separation. I'm not going back to Warrior Games. I'm actually going to be on family vacation in July, so I was eligible for 1 more Warrior Game, but family vacation is going to be my priority. So I was blessed to be able to do both.
They got a precision air sports. That's cool.
They do. Yep. I medaled in standing air rifle. That was my silver medal at Warrior Games.
No shit.
Yeah.
So you got one of these cool race guns?
I don't have a used one, but I don't own one. I do have. I did archery. I did competitive recurve, and I do have my own like Olympic style recurve.
Okay.
Which I enjoy using. But I got my medals right here. Got my Warrior Games. I got my Warrior Games medal, and right here, and the Invictus one right here.
Nice. Now, are those real silver?
No, not real silver. And my kids beat me up on getting silver, and they were like, "That means you had an opportunity for gold,
and
you missed it." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks."
It's like you just fell short.
Teenage girls, man, they're tough like, to impress.
Try harder, Dad. Try harder.
They're like, bronze would have been better, Dad, because at least you didn't. You weren't. Right there for gold.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Tough crowd.
Well, guys, I greatly appreciate it. This has been very educational. I know our listeners will appreciate it, and I hope our military men and women that are out there listening, if you have any questions, if you need to get in touch, you need links, you can email me, talkingled@gmail.com, or you can reach out on the social medias on our Instagram page. And but we've given you some good links here that you can go to directly, and like the guys are saying, I mean, go get the physical. That's the first step. Just go get that physical, get checked out, and take it from there. So next episode coming up. I don't know if it's going to be the next, but it's coming up soon. Is we're doing one on espionage, and there's a certain individual in particular that we're going to be kind of talking about and branching it off from there. But I think it's going to be a fun episode. So stay tuned for that. We've got that coming up, plus lots more lead heads. Steve, Albert, Lance, I greatly appreciate you guys. And we got to get you back on. Got to get you guys back on. We'll do a less serious episode. Maybe if you take these guys on a hunt or something like that, Lance, we can talk about that. I know you guys have been on some hunts here recently too. Old Bildo's been rubbing it in. So we
I don't think either one of them have been on our hog hunt yet, so that'll be one of the ones I invite both of them to soon.
I highly recommend it. You guys will definitely enjoy that. But that's it for this episode, Leadheads. Keep your loved ones close. And your firearms closer.
That was our cue. Sorry, Marty.
That was your cue. I put it on the notes, I think. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I forgot to put that on there. So,
hey, keep your firearms closer there, everybody.
There you go. And I'll leave you with this in honor of my hero this week.
Well, I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry. Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
If it's not with you.